Members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Oh boy. Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Well, good afternoon and evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. Welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I know it's felt like 10 zillion years since I've been here, and maybe that's just because I've been traveling all over the place, but I'm so thankful that you have joined us here on Mississippi Live Weather at 6 o'clock, and I'm so excited to actually be able to talk about the weather for a change. And of course, thankful to the good folks at Room to Room for sponsoring us here, and our many sponsors you'll see during our commercial breaks. Please support these folks. They are the reason why we are able to actually do this Mississippi Live Weather broadcast, and hopefully we'll continue to be able to do it for a long time into the future. So again, Room to Room, our Weather Center sponsor, and we appreciate that. Spotty storms are likely in the next few hours. We'll track those in a little more detail for you here in a couple of minutes. Also going to tour some sky cams. Got a new one to show you from around the area. Excited. Hopefully we'll have another new one to show you at 10 o'clock as that network expanding. And a big thank you to the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for that. Rain is more likely to be limited for your Sunday. There are plenty of rain chances next week. I expect them late in the week to become fairly widespread. We are hoping that that will limit the temperature somewhat by then. I think though we're drier to start the week. That starts tomorrow, extends into Monday before at least spotty rain chances start coming back as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday. Outside in Pod Talk right now, show 91 that temperature, feels like temperature 99. A bit of cloud movement there, some storms trying to develop depending on where you're looking at there, though our radar scan in Pontotoc County showing up clear at this time. Of course, we're looking the opposite direction, looking north of many of the showers down there to the south. We've been watching a few down at our newest camera location. This again with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers there in the Oxford area, generally looking toward the south and east at this point. We have a shot, we're kind of south of town there. We have a shot that kind of looking southeast toward where there were some showers. They've diminished a bit more. You can kind of see that in the map in the corner there in just the last little bit. Feels like 97 there. So again, not quite as extreme for a lot of locations still at this hour. Smithville, there are those thunderstorms kind of developing. I can pan this camera just a little bit, but as you can see there, the kind of the line of storms, some heavier rainfall with that. We will look at that with Mississippi Live Weather Radar here in a couple minutes. It feels like 100 degrees there in Smithville because, of course, we have not seen the rainfall at that point, but we have seen rainfall in Caledonia. We're down to 90 for the feels like temperature. That's the problem. That's as cool as we get when we're 90 for the feels like temperature there. Still fairly rough at this point. 81 though, at least we're rain cooled. Aberdeen, maybe we'll be able to catch that shot for you here in just a couple minutes. A lot more showers in and around that location than Greenwood. Again, showers have moved through 91. The feels like temperature. Those heat indices have been the most rough for locations out into the Mississippi Delta. Still some raindrops on the screen. Some of those storms there on the horizon as well as look back kind of toward a southwesterly direction. So here's the latest look here at Mississippi Live Weather Radar. Well, we kind of had, having the wider shot here for a moment, a longer loop. That shows you again our showers kind of starting toward the coast there have all kind of worked their way northward. We'll look at the overall pattern related to this. One of the things we had a couple weeks ago before I went to Canada was one of these shear axes that was a focal point for rainfall. That is kind of a general kind of low pressure center that we do have there. Whoa, I haven't done that before. Let's try that. Let's pull that back up. Okay. Don't use 5 fingers on that or it'll make the program go down. Anyway, we've kind of have this high pressure center to the east. This wave is going to rotate around, and as it eventually comes back in, that'll enhance some of the rain chances next week, though obviously we have some out there that we're watching at this time. Let's bring it to the current time period here on this, and let's bring it in a little closer looking at radar out of the Columbus area. And as we do, again, tracking some of those storms, we are tracking those back here for Aberdeen, stretching back there closer to the Egypt community. The rain-cooled air around Okolona kind of moving northeast eastward. About 157 lightning strikes. These are not severe thunderstorms. Heavy rainfall, obviously the main impact we will have out of these. Let's make this a shorter loop here. We'll make it a 1-hour loop to show you, again, that expanding northward. And we do expect this batch to eventually make it up here, Shannon, maybe Tupelo locations northward. So this will continue expanding towards Smithville and Amory within the next 30 to 45 minutes or so. Let's get a few storm tracks on here to give you kind of an idea on when that will happen. Again, these are moving about 25 miles per hour. So I'm going to bring it back here to the latest scan, and now we'll get you some of those storm tracks. We'll hit a couple of these over and over there. So this one back there, again, about 25 miles per hour. We show this easternmost one, Westville, right now. Quincy about 6:14. This is heavy rainfall. This is lightning. This is not severe weather. We're there towards Splunge at 6:28, Detroit 6:43 as that moves in kind of a northeasterly direction. Next storm, we're tracking the one over top of Aberdeen. Of course, over top of you, that one most likely to possibly make it up here toward Amory. When we look toward Amory about 6:30 for you, let me slide this over here, see if we can kind of analyze that a little better. Becker, we're at 6:23, current time is 6:05, so still generally working toward you there. Hatley by about 6:33, Smithville we show at about 6:47, and then the easternmost of those thunderstorms there, back out here close to Highway 8. Again, I'll probably clip a few other locations there. It's going to take a while before this makes it all the way up there to Fulton. We'll actually pull out our measuring stick there. Again, at about 25 miles per hour, you can see we're looking just a little bit more than an hour, about an hour and 10 minutes for you in Fulton, so about 7 o'clock or so for you. As I shrink that on down there, we show Tranquil Community at 6:23 on this, Wren at 6:28, Cotton Gin Estates about 6:31 there, Bigby at about 6:40. And as we look three-dimensionally on these thunderstorms for a moment, one thing that you will note is that none of these are particularly strong as far as that is concerned, thankfully, and these are clearly our strongest. We did have one there near Bruce. We'll look at some camera shots there, or some of your weather pictures from out there here in a minute. But we kind of analyze this. There are a few that are heavier, but none that are really too terribly over the top as far as that's concerned. So I'm still watching the potential for maybe some moderate rainfall, maybe even a couple of hailstones up there. But lightning, heavy rainfall, the main story really out of all of these at this time. So as we look at the first 12 here, again, we're at our peak of rain coverage, still about 30% on that by 7 p.m. 10 p.m. we're looking at about 10% there, and then drying out overnight with temperatures heading back into probably the mid 70s for the first part of early morning on your Sunday. So here's a look kind of at the zoomed in shot here at Futurecast just for a moment. And we'll get a lot more details in on this in a second, but I want you to show the overall coverage of these storms diminishing within the next couple of hours here. So by 9 to 10 o'clock, mostly in general, things are a little bit drier. Still some storms down there closer to Jackson, and that could potentially clip Attala County. If we were looking for some spots, maybe see some moisture chances past midnight. Down there, Attala, Carroll County, back out toward around Greenville as well. Not an impossibility to get a few of those. The bigger story here, and we'll dig a lot more in this in a minute, is high pressure. We have the overall ridge here, but you can actually see that little swirl out there in the Gulf of Mexico, showing you have multiple levels of this ridge of high pressure. This is building in, and the big story that this is going to have with it is this is going to make sure that we get dry as this builds in. But one of the interesting things is our moisture we have here is going to kind of rotate around this and eventually come back at us, but it's going to take probably into next week before that really ends up becoming the case. So largely that helps us to dry out overnight with no real fronts around us. That means temperatures build, and heat in a big way is a huge part of this weather story as we go to the extreme levels and dangerous levels. We'll look at that wet bulb globe temperature and how to use that to protect you and your family, and in particular, band students, football players, all these outdoor activities, runners. We need to be thinking about very seriously how much of that we're doing in the heat of the day this week, because it gets dangerous. So tomorrow, rain coverage less, but we're going to have still maybe some in the afternoons. We'll look at the next 24, mid-90s out there for highs, heat indices over 100. We'll look at those in more detail coming up here in 60 seconds. And of course, we're looking ahead at where those rain chances could end up lining up, not just there, but in the extended forecast as Mississippi Live Weather at 6 continues from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this. Assuming I can hit the foot pedal.
Your family deserves the most beautiful smile possible. At Tupelo Smiles, we use precision dentistry and advanced technology to make visiting the dentist an amazing experience. Relationship-based comprehensive care. Come discover the difference at Tupelo Smiles.
I was made for this. Crawling through the muck to find where the real problems hide.
All this dampness, it's perfect for mold, and that can mean headaches, rashes, even chronic illness for your family.
That's why we offer our Healthy Home 7-point mold inspection to restore your health by restoring your home.
Focusing on water and mold control from the crawl space to the roof, you can call Absolute Restoration, your local and trusted restoration contractor.
1 in 10 kids vape. Each vape pod can contain the same amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes.
The Health Class Film Guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
Right now, from the Mississippi Live Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobheim.
Again, I can't say this enough. Thank you so much for supporting us here on Mississippi Live Weather. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynard did a just spectacular job over the last couple of weeks, keeping you informed of when we had storms and obviously the extreme heat. Caleb Edelbrook, who you'll be hearing more from in upcoming weeks, just doing a great job holding down the fort. And of course, we announced that we're bringing on with us our meteorologist Maggie McCauley. Hopefully, maybe not this coming week, but week after that, we'll be able to start showing you more morning broadcasts as I think we have all this kind of stuff for her home studio figured out there. So super exciting stuff on the way, despite the fact that there's nothing I'd say terribly exciting about the forecast right now. I mean, I just choose Lee County here, but you can choose any spot. We have heat advisories in effect through tomorrow evening, and we expect them to be extended beyond that. One of the big deals earlier this summer, it's like, oh, we've got heat advisories for a week. Okay. We're going to have them a good chunk of this upcoming week. Maybe not the next 7 days, but I would say through probably Wednesday, a lot of us are dealing with those at least. And I still might be a little hot on that temperature on Wednesday. Rain chances figure in. But again, current alerts here, those heat advisories, significant levels of significant heat. The heat index over the next 7 days. And again, I'm just plucking one location and looking at afternoon heat indices here. In some spots, it will be hotter than this. But clearly, we were around the 100-degree point for today, a little higher than that. Tomorrow, we're 105 or greater. Again, that's the reason those heat advisories for all locations. We're even hotter by Monday, even hotter by Tuesday. Probably the peak of our heat is on Tuesday, where heat indices could be in excess of 110. That's the most likely time frame for us to have those excessive heat warnings in effect. And we'll look at that wet bulb globe temperature and when you shouldn't be doing anything outside here in a minute. But the takeaway I also want to show is you can see an extended there. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, those values coming down, a greater quantity of rainfall, and a front arriving by the latter part of this week could have the double-edged impact there of trying to drop those temperatures a little bit more. South Mississippi, notice it takes a little longer. In fact, that front making less of an impact there for our folks down in Jackson, down closer to the coast. Those heat indices remaining obviously blistering hot even through the extended forecast as well. So as we look kind of on the wider shot here, the overall pattern, we kind of talked about this a moment ago. It comes back to this ridge of high pressure that we have out to the east. And so that ridge of high pressure that you see there is obviously a huge part of this story. I'm going to change this kind of on what we call our water vapor here to the wider shot on the water vapor to kind of show you the overall pattern. And it does come back to this swirl here. That is going to continue working its way into the Gulf of Mexico. We're on the north side of this, so we don't completely eliminate the rain chances, but as it eventually gets closer to us, this builds the heat in a big way. Because again, when you have clockwise motion around that there, it brings up that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. So that moisture continues to kind of impact us. But eventually there'll be another frontal system. Doesn't really show up on here. It's way back up north. This eventually could bring us some more active weather in the extended, including better rain chances. I know a lot of folks would probably like to see at least well, I don't know if a lot of folks like to see rainfall. I know my wife certainly wants to see a little bit of that. So that's probably part of the reason why I'm looking toward that as well. Those temperatures, you can see where we have had them kind of pop up there. We've had some of the showers. They're more manageable. Where you see kind of the oranges on here, those are some spots where the temperature is mid-70s because of the rain cool there. A lot of spots in advance, though, still low 90s. But the bigger number is obviously the heat index, which just remains blistering hot in a lot of locations. Let's look here at latest on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. And again, we mentioned the folks there in Aberdeen a moment ago. I'm going to clear off our tool that lets us kind of poke and prod the information. Let's look at this batch here from Athens to Quincy. And I'm going to actually, from this, go check out our camera there in Aberdeen, see if we have, might not actually let me pull up Aberdeen directly there, because I forgot I have to be in analysis mode. Again, I was on vacation, so it's going to take me a moment to get used to everything back there. So let's bring this back in. Give me just a second here. And now we can bring up that camera there in the Aberdeen area. to kind of pop that up for you. It'll take a second here. And obviously there are the dark clouds. But man, look at that. That feels like temperature 108. By the way, the reason that jumped is it has the initial data, and I haven't pushed it to look at all these cameras necessarily today, and so then it pulls in the real data for a moment after that. So you have that initial wave. That was before the thunderstorms moved in, and obviously a lot of rainfall there. The wind south at 10 miles per hour, but that heat index, 108, is just gross. As we look more in a northerly direction there, a lot of rainfall plopping around there. This will also take a second to pull in the latest data. So again, we're looking here in Amory, again, ahead of that. And then this is that rain-cooled air working its way north, and you can kind of see on the graphic there. We'll track that time into Amory, give you the latest updated track on the leading edge of all that in a minute, but already starting to kind of bounce around. No matter what little fingery little stuff you have hanging down below this, there is no tornado potential out of what we are seeing there today. Now, a couple strong wind gusts. Man, that is really, I don't feel like I'm used to these bobbing around quite this much. So that's got some decent wind in it. Before we go any further here, let's go ahead and go back here and check out just to see how much wind this has up in that there. So we'll bring it back in here closer to Aberdeen and Amory and Smithville and some of those locations there in Monroe County. Let's go ahead and get the storm track on it, and then we'll kind of poke and prod the wind after we do that here in a second. So I'm going to take this, and I'm not tracking. Okay, actually, before we do that, let's clear that. Let's give you storm track time. We'll do A before B. And so there you go. We show Athens. Now the wind is going to run ahead of this, because what we just caught a second ago was outflow winds, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So yeah, this shows Amory at about 627, but the reality on this for those folks, you folks in Amory there, is that that's when the heavier rainfall arrives. But you can barely kind of make it out right there. That is that rain-cooled outflow. And our camera's just right there on the south side of Amory. So that's the reason why that is bouncing around, that outflow. So that's the same thing out here toward Leotis. It's what helps kind of get these thunderstorms growing up there toward Nettleton and Shannon within about the next 10 minutes or so. Pretty good gust of wind. What that also is the leading edge of the rain-cooled air, so you'll feel much more pleasant by the time that moves into your area in the next few minutes here. So it's going to clear that off, yeah. So you can see kind of where I was doing with my mouse, but that is that rain-cooled air there as well. Let's pan this back to the west. Notice farther removed, and I'm going to go ahead and kick this into clear air mode for a second so you can see a bunch of other stuff there. But I do think that that outflow of rain-cooled air does extend out here toward Algoma, moving northward toward Pontotoc as well, and Coffeyville. So that, again, could be some gusty wind. I'm going to go specifically looking at the wind mode here, and it does not show up with something that's too terribly extreme in that regard, thankfully. And so it's kind of an interesting contrast there as we kick things back over here to Tupelo, that we still show up with as much sunshine as we do at this point. This is the last time I checked the camera. It takes a second there to update, but yeah, still sunny. Feels like 100 degrees in the Tupelo area at this instance, so still rather sticky and obviously fairly warm out there at this point. So as this plots in on the wide shot there, you can definitely see the rainfall and thunderstorms lifting northward through the area as they are now. And our hour-by-hour forecast has that rain coverage for tomorrow probably peaking in the afternoon at around 20% or so. From 76 at 7 a.m. will be 95 degrees at 3 p.m. and 90 as we head toward the afternoon. So here are these thunderstorms lifting northward. As we stop things here for a moment, I think overdone just a little bit, right? I think we'd agree looking at rainfall a moment ago there. This is probably overdone a little bit. But it gives you general idea on the overall coverage of these thunderstorms lifting northward next couple hours here by 10 o'clock. Most of it's out of here. Any lingering stuff would be heavier up closer to the Tennessee state line. Most of us in the dry category, or at least drier by that point in time. As we head overnight, again, clouds kind of lingering with perhaps a couple of sprinkles just off your screen here. I'm going to widen this just for a moment so you can see this here. Our Futurecast has had a couple of showers down here that do try to kind of move in from the south, but in general, that's more the exception to the rule than the rule, I should say, as we'll be tomorrow morning looking at, obviously, mainly dry conditions. We're 74 for that beginning temperature there in Houston, in Tupelo, and Amory. Our normal this time of year, pretty close to this, so within a degree or so. So this is to be expected with Greenville, our warmest beginning temperature coming in at around 76. So looking at Futurecast here through your Sunday, again, fairly dry, 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning or so. So we're good to go getting you to and from church before anything starts popping up there as we, again, just partly cloudy skies. But notice we start to get a few more of those clouds in the afternoon and a few more of these trying to depict a couple isolated showers. Now, the greatest quantity of those most likely in the northwest part of the state, but we do have, again, a couple that have tried to develop. I was standing in front of it because it was about that long there, closer to the Alabama state line, but still fairly spotty. So I leave 20% on that hour by hour for tomorrow, but that could be overdoing it. This is really the story. As much as I've said rain, and we've tracked stuff a moment ago, this is the story here. Mid-90s out there. Tupelo, Amory, Houston coming about 95, 96 for Starkville and Columbus, 97 in Greenwood. And that heat index for tomorrow expected to be extreme. They're up into the, in many cases, probably, I think it's reasonable that we'll be up in excess of 105 to 107 degrees in some spots, especially in the Delta. Here are those spotty thunderstorms trying to still stick around tomorrow evening. But again, most of us, you saw the vast majority are dry leading into early Monday morning, as Monday should be a mainly dry day. Now, this particular version of Futurecast tends to be a little aggressive in this scenario. It still has a couple isolated pop-ups there. Now, comparatively speaking, as we look at kind of a wider shot here for a moment, you'll notice how the majority of those are back out there, out to the north and east of us. That's because high pressure at this point is going to be kind of dragging in some northerly winds. A lot of times, I think this is way overdoing the rain chances there. Let's be clear about that for a second. But in saying that, we have wind that's coming from an from land mass here, right? A land to the north. The plains, not known for as much moisture as the Gulf is, right? And so this pattern, at least for a brief moment, does try to keep us somewhat drier. But the same little disturbance giving us the rain chances today is going to rotate around the north side of this eventually and try to come back at us from the east. And that'll increase some rain chances as we head later on into this week. So with that in mind, we have to hit those temperatures and highs expected to be, well, just that high as we look into your Monday. With actual temperatures, we're middle to upper 90s. We show 97 to 98 degrees or so in Tupelo, Amory, and Houston, coming about 99 Greenwood, and actual high temperatures to 100 in Belzona, 101 in the Greenville area. Here, as we look at that forecast over the course of the next few days, we expect to, again, probably have some isolated showers and thunderstorms again for Tuesday into Wednesday and Thursday. The thinking through that extended forecast is that we're most likely, I think, to probably see better rain chances middle latter part of next week. Look what that does to temperatures. And I'm probably a little high at 40% on Wednesday, because this is probably a one or the other. We get to 40%, we're not quite 98. We get to 98, we were not 40% on that rain coverage. Okay, it's probably one or the other on that. And so that's why as we look toward Thursday, we transition a little bit milder and a greater coverage of rainfall, an even greater amount by Friday. Now, the projection, the primary one, we call the European model that I'm looking at here in the extended. And again, I'm coming in cold off this after being legitimately cold up in Canada. So my forecasting is going to take a few days to get wired back in. I'm a little higher than Gabe was yesterday here for these days, because that European projection is a lot more aggressive on some of the rain chances late next week, considering how wet a large portion of this year has been. That's one of the reasons for that. Now, coming up here in about 60 seconds, we're going to look again at wet bulb globe temperature, the extreme values of heat and stickiness and the dangerous levels associated with that. We will look at that in more detail, as well as some of your weather pictures, as Mississippi Live Weather at 6 continues right after this.
At Room to Room, did you know our specialty is custom ordered upholstery? Get the furniture you want and the fabric and color selection you want. With our free design service, we won't let you make a mistake.
When people are fed, futures are nourished. They can connect with the world around them, unlock endless possibilities, and thrive. Join the movement to end hunger. Volunteer. Advocate. Donate. Go to feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Hey, so let's talk about this wet bulb globe temperature. And, you know, Gabe has done a great job talking about the heat danger with this. I want to talk just a little bit more about how to interpret this, because I want to say that I think this is pretty clear on, you know, kind of almost a stoplight mentality on this. When you're in the gray, obviously there's no real threat. Into the evening, into the overnight hours, that's typically the case. There's not a lot of real significant threat there. Green, you're still okay for a lot of those outdoor practices. And then clearly we're talking primarily about high school kids, middle school kids, maybe your kids, and how they're playing sports and doing other activities. Think about this as, okay, caution, probably not a good idea, and absolutely do not, okay? And it relates back to the scale that a lot of these coaches use, where we're in this black here, again, it's completely not, and then it's a greater and greater amount as you go to the left there of time that you can have the kids outside before there are significant issues here. So obviously overnight, no issues related to that. But I want to show you that as we go toward tomorrow afternoon, we do have some locations, even on your Sunday, out here in the Delta, Clarksdale, back toward Greenwood, Belzona, Cleveland, Clarksdale there, obviously as well, and Greenville. All you're in that zone where we do not need to be doing any outdoor practicing of any kind. This is a military thing, by the way, developed by the U.S. military on how to judge whether or not their very, very fit adults are able to handle things. And even in that situation, that's when they judge it that you should not be doing those outdoor activities. Okay, so as we look toward Monday, we're good to begin the day. You can see we start to have some issues as we get closer to 1:30, 2 o'clock into the afternoon there. I'm gonna double check the, peak time there. So again, 1:32, 3 o'clock. There's a large portion of our area that's in the do not practice, do not do anything that could put the kids in danger. And again, obviously we had the incident with some kids passing out a little earlier on this week. We don't want that. So let's be very, very careful that it does not go beyond that. A lot of us are in that extreme wet bulb globe temperature where it's just not safe. So that's your Monday, and even that continues into the evening, as you can see there. As we head toward Tuesday in the afternoon, almost all of us are under that extreme highest level of danger and highest possibility of heat injury risk. And so again, I think Tuesday's probably our peak as far as that combination of heat and humidity is concerned. Humidity might come up a little bit more as we look toward your Wednesday, but we do anticipate that as rain chances increase, hopefully that knocks down temperatures. Wednesday's still a day with an inflection point where we could still be hotter, depending on how much longer some of that moisture ends up holding off there. So that remains a bit of a question there. So as we kind of advance this here for a moment, again, that was that wet bulb globe temperature we talked about. Let's talk about some weather pictures, the way in which a lot of folks have sent in. We appreciate all of you, our weather watchers there, for sending in pictures. Some of these came from last night. I just had to show them because we had so many rainbow pictures. We know you love to send those in. And one of the things on our software here, it'll tell me the last one day. I wish I could make it say like the last hour, the last 5 hours. That's something, of course, we'll talk to our vendor about. Maybe we can improve that. But again, cool shot here of almost the complete rainbow. If I can stay out of the way. Let me get out of the way here for a second. Appreciate Shannon in the Richmond community for using the Mississippi Live Weather app to send in that photograph there. Another complete rainbow sent in by Chris. This one in the Calhoun City area. And I can tell based on where the position the car is. Luckily, Chris was not taking this while driving there between, I think, Vardaman and the Calhoun City area when that picture was sent in. Thank you so much to Chris and Destiny there in Red Bay. Again, a lot of heavy rainfall and a nice rainbow in all these cases. What can I say? I'm always a sucker for a rainbow, so I appreciate Destiny for sending in her pictures. You can always send yours in to us using the Mississippi Live Weather app. Free and available for all of those various devices there. We appreciate all of you for going ahead and downloading that. Let's come back. I don't know why that did that. I think I know why. I think I had an auto advance on that. So give me a moment here while I get kind of your stream back up. So I apologize for that. I've been on vacation and my last click of the day was the one that messed me up. So anyway, I want to thank all of you for downloading the app. We have a new release of the app that came out yesterday that a lot of you have downloaded over the last about 27%. So about a quarter of the people are now on that latest version. Highly recommend you updating. Here's why. Let me go get my phone for a second and come right back. So the Mississippi Live Weather app Hold on a second. If I can get this up here. So the cool thing about the app is obviously that you have that video that's right there at the top of the home screen, right? Right, that we show there, and the video pop up, and it's, I guess, me in front of the same graphic there, right? And in a second, I'll probably get to see. Actually, no, I think that's all caught up. So one problem with this, though, is in the previous version, if you just clicked off of the app, well, you could see that video is still at the top. Actually, kind of a cool thing because you can keep that as picture-in-picture while you move around and do other things. But say you clicked and made that go away. It didn't always close, despite the fact that my phone says it's closed. Okay, so that meant in the background, it was pulling down some broadband usage, believe it or not, some data usage there. And maybe more importantly, it was running your battery down a little quicker. So you want to go to the latest version released yesterday, because what that will do is that will make it to where your data is in better shape. Obviously, that it's going to make sure that it doesn't use the data, and it keeps your battery in better shape as well. So that's one of those bugs that the developer had in there that we luckily were able to get fixed over the time that I was up in Canada, and they got that released yesterday. So highly recommend you go to the App Store, and this is, I should have said in the very beginning, this is iOS, Apple devices, and in particular devices that were on iOS 18.5 that had that issue. So if you're on iOS 18.5, then obviously we had some issues there. That has been resolved. Now, one issue that, in talking to folks today, has not been resolved, and it's not an issue that came across my phone, but some people had it, is when they would click on the interactive radar, it would close it. You can see, again, where the rain is showing up there, it's clear. But mine is fine. But the weird thing about that is you might have, like, I think I have an iPhone 16, right? One person with an iPhone 16 would be fine, the next person wouldn't, and we're still trying to squash that bug. This update didn't fix that. But if you are having issues with that, use, there's a place in the app here where you can send it. Hit the support button on the main menu, kind of on the left there. Hit the support button, send something in. You can do that form there is probably the best way. And then, actually, I want to double check. I feel like there's another way there. Under settings, email support. Okay, let's try that again. So if you go in here and you hit settings, email support, that gives me all that information there, right? And then I know exactly what kind of phone you have and some of the other build information on it. I can then send that to the developer, and we can hopefully squash this bug. And maybe we can get back with you when a new version is in development and send it and see if it's still messing up on yours before we release it to everybody and go, hey, it could be fixed, and it's not. So thank you so much for joining us here on Mississippi Live Weather at 6 o'clock. I'm gonna double check to see any different things you see in here. I appreciate y'all in Nettleton and Fulton, Michigan City there. Storms are not severe. We can take a second here and look over the storms one more time. Someone mentioned the beard. The boss said I could have one day of the beard on air. I'm probably gonna get rid of it. We'll probably do a no shave November later this year. So anyway, we'll actually do that. But I don't know. It doesn't look bad, but it's not me, or at least not the version of me that I know. So let's look back at analysis mode on here. Let's look back at the radar here for a moment to kind of check that out for everybody and the precipitation out there. Yeah, there's nothing severe out there, nothing even remotely severe at this point. We'll kind of start north up here, got some storms up closer to New Albany, North Haven. Again, no severe weather with these, nothing that's overly strong that I'm looking at this point. Here's kind of that loop. They've flared up a little bit, but we're losing the heating of the day, so we're already on the collapse there. So I don't know that any of those individual thunderstorms last a whole lot longer. These storms have diminished a lot as they've moved up here in Monroe County. We looked at Smithville a little bit ago. Let's check another look there at Smithville. Kind of in the edge of the rainfall there. Yeah, just pretty much right on top of it. Might get an update. Yeah, so it's getting a lot closer there to the camera, bouncing around quite a bit. That's because of that outflow of rain-cooled air in advance. So let's stop a second here. And let's take a better look at that. We'll go with the wind mode here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. And I mean, I don't show anything that's over the top. You know, most of this, let's see if I can get it back to the most impressive scan. It should be right here, about 6:15 or so. And on this, I'm getting estimations 20, 25 miles per hour. So yeah, Despite the fact it looks a little rough out of these cameras and it's heavy rainfall and lightning, thankfully this is not severe. And you can obviously usually tell that a lot this time of year by just looking at the lightning count on that. When it's in the 200 range, not too terribly high, not over the top. All right, well, we'll go ahead and shut things down. I'll be back at 10 o'clock for Mississippi Live Weather at 10. We appreciate y'all watching. And of course, stick with us for the latest information on this heat as it builds. Be safe, be smart, and then I think we'll probably all be in pretty good shape if that's the case. So let me see if I can make this rerun our break that we typically end it with, and we will see you guys tonight at 10.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. You know, we knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lawpon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lawpon has proven himself trustworthy.
Thank you.